Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Midwest Mondays. I got some cool stuff for you today. We're going to talk briefly about YCS Vegas, the remote YCS that just happened this past weekend. Talk about some lists. Not going to be touching on it very long. There's a lot of coverage for that. A lot of people have been posting deck lists, profiles, top cut breakdowns, things like that. So I'm just going to take a look at a few lists that I think are really cool. And then we're going to go into some other subjects. So a few weeks ago, I was messaging the team in our group chat. I was just like, guys, let's get some podcast ideas rolling so we can stay ahead of the game and not try and scramble week after week. So throw out your suggestions. What do you guys think we should do? And Avery Foster had this to share, these wonderful ideas. Favorite Taylor Swift song? If you were to lock all the UDS champions in a cage and made them fight to the death, who would be the winner? Every event, look at the top 3 and play Fuck, Marry, Kill. And then lastly, and this dude's insane, he said, one of the weeks we should discuss the potential impact of the upcoming Russian invasion of Ukraine that is going to happen after the Olympics, as well as the China-Taiwan tension and the fact that Japan said they'd back Taiwan. So if China makes a move, we will possibly be in 2 different military feuds, and we should reflect on how it might change the secondary Yu-Gi-Oh market. We're not going to do that right now. But maybe next week. But for this week's podcast, we asked our players 2 things. We asked them about their favorite Taylor Swift song, and most of them did not give good answers, but I forgive them anyway. And we also asked them, if we were to lock all the UDS champions in a cage and made them fight to the death, who would be the winner? So you'll get to hear from us on those, and it's interesting, I guess is the word I'd choose. So YCS Vegas Remote Duel, February 2020. The YCS had a wide variety of decks in Top Cut. I think there were 6 Prank Kids, and that was the most represented deck in top 32. So the rest of the decks were 3 Eldritch, 3 Dragon Link, 3 Virtual World, 3 Drytron. So that's 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So a little bit over half of the decks in Top Cut were one of those 5. And then there were 2s and 1s of Flunder, Sword Soul, Phantom Knight, Tenyi Synchro, Plunder, Mech Knight, DDD, Earth Machine, Sky Striker, and Paulie's winning list, the Punk Good Stuff Link deck. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 different decks in Top Cut, which is really cool. What's less cool is that most of them are using a Brave engine of some sort, so but that's okay. Still a pretty diverse format. There's a lot of different strategies that can get you there, and you like to see that. All right, we got an interesting Sky Striker list too. So we're assuming that he's playing a going first strategy because he's main decking the summon limits. So sounds like he thought that was a little bit better than their can this format, which makes sense. Their can, I think, got significantly worse post ban list and post Brave stuff. But we got summon limits in the main, and then a Sky Striker list playing the adventure cards without Griffin. So interesting strategy. Arguably, Griffin is like the best card in the package and the reason you play it, but he committed 6 cards to this engine without the Griffin. So we're looking at it, and we're assuming that the strategy is you can use the token to go into Verte pretty easily without having to open like Ray and Rose or Ray and Hornet drones. So you get to conserve more striker resources when you're making Verte if you're using right, which I can get behind, I suppose. Another reason is the equip card is just really good going second. The problem is if you're doing that, if you're using right to get to the token and using the equip to pick apart a board, you're not able to use ray effect to dodge things, and it's worse with the field spell. So field spell target ray becomes a lot worse because you can't do that with the adventure cards. So a bit of a trade-off there. And then the last thing I think is actually probably very important, and I haven't watched his deck profile yet, but Enchantress is a spellcaster. So all of a sudden you have, if you open right, that becomes 2 cards closer to Selene, which gets you into access code. So you don't have to go the line where you do Hulk, Summon Effect Veiler. You have another way to get to Selene into access code, because right plus any monster does it, as long as there are enough spells on field or in either player's graveyard. So that is probably relevant with the Selene access code package in the extra deck, I imagine. So that's probably the 3 biggest utilities of the adventure cards in the striker deck. Other than that, I don't hate the list. I do wish Ogre was in here somewhere, I think. I don't know how much of a fan of Gamma I am, just because Striker in general has problems, like getting rid of things on the board. Like, picking apart boards isn't always the worst thing in the world, but if what you're picking apart are big monsters, sometimes that's harder. And you typically need just a lot of cards in your hand to be able to do that. So when you're adding more bricks like Driver or Gamma that's dead a lot, then it becomes harder to do that unless you also draw a droplet with it and you can just use them as free discards. So I don't know. I've never loved Gamma in Striker, even though I try to make it work a lot. I always move away from Gamma every time I try and put it back in. The extra deck, because he was playing the adventure cards, he had to fit in a Link Spider, which means he had to cut 2 important Striker links. So you see a lot, the standard extra deck is without Link Spider, and you have 3 Shiz, 2 Hayate. For a while, I was playing 2 Shiz and 3 Hayate because I thought that was really good, and I didn't hate that. But he's got 2 Hayate and 2 Shiz now because he's got to fit in Link Spider. And I think that few Striker links, because you got, 3, 6, 9 Striker links, I think that makes Prosperity much, much worse. So, that might be why he cut it down to 2 instead of playing 3. I think it's really hard to pot for 6 when the only Striker link you're playing 3 of is Kagari. But it's possible that every time he was resolving pot, it was only for 3, just so he could conserve his extra deck resources. Which, in theory, is fine. You only really want to pot for 6 when you have to dig because you're going to lose because your hand's average. But sometimes that happens more than you want in Striker. Overall, he got top 4, so had a good run. And then our YCS champion, Paulie, well-deserved. Guy's a great player. Big fan. He played the 60-card pile, so he was playing the desk bot with the souls and the Tenyi variant, and he added a few punk cards too. I don't know what the punk cards do, so I'm sure there are explanations out there. I'm sure he's got a deck profile. I'll probably link it in the description. But he did what I've been wanting to do ever since I played my 50-card pile. So if y'all remember, I was playing the 50-card level 3 deck, the Cherubini deck. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this one. This is the list that I played when I went to Philly and Baltimore for those tournaments. And I was a big fan. One of the things I wanted to do was fit in Cross-Out Designator. So I was like tinkering with it a little bit, and I created this 60-card list where I added Cross-Out, main decked Lancia, added Destrudo, and then Nib, a Gamma for Cross-Out. I added Driver just in case you drew the Gamma when you're going second. I don't know. This has been zero testing of this at all. But yeah, I increased it to 60 cards just so I could add 3 crossout, because crossout's good first and second, right? It's another player on Scythe when you're going second, and going first, it stops hand traps that would shut down your combo. So crossout has a lot of utility right now, and I spent the last like week and a half trying to fit it into this pile deck. Unfortunately, I could not play the YCS, but I think crossout is the move, and I think Paulie like saw that. I was like, you know what, crossout's insane, and look at that 3 crossout designator. It is unfortunate that it is a 60 card deck, because obviously you're not going to see the power cards as much, right? You're not going to see crossout, you're not going to see droplet as much as you want. But he's also maining 3/3/3, so that's 11, 12, 13 additional hand traps along with those other cards. So that's 13, 16, 19 cards that work going second. And E-Telly is a pseudo going second card against the Brave deck too, because you can just summon Ghost Ogre to your field and Ogre the Griffin. Or they just Griffin the E-Telly if they're scared of that, which is probably not correct, but I'm sure it's happened. So a lot of utility cards going second that help stop you from getting scythed. And with the adventure package, Vishuda is another really good card going second that I was not playing, that I would like to try possibly. I think if I stop playing the level 3 build, something like this is what I'm going to switch over to, just because I think Souls and Illusion of Chaos is really good. I think Vishuda with the Red Rose, that combo is really good. And I've never actually played a deck with Despot in my deck, so it sounds fun. I feel like I should. Seems like a good time. So this is Paulie's list. Got the Cupid Pitch in here. The Double Hulk, which is something I wanted to do too. I was only playing one, and it wasn't coming up for a while, but every once in a while a second Hulk would have won me the game. So I do like the 2 Hulks in the list. And yeah, this was our YCS champion. So congrats to Paulie. Good stuff. I hope everybody that played in YCS Vegas had a good time. Shout out to Zohair, one of Minnesota's own, who got top 8. And yeah, that's it for our Vegas recap. We'll post some more links in the description to other coverage of the events. But now we're going to get into the real stuff, the Midwest Gaming favorite Taylor Swift song, and our picks for who would win in a cage match of the UDS champions.
Hey guys, it's Caleb here with Midwest Gaming. And my favorite Taylor Swift song is You Belong With Me.
So, my favorite song from Taylor Swift is Blank Space.
Hi everyone, Jose from Midwest Gaming, and my favorite Taylor Swift song is Me with Brendan Urie, mostly because I really like Panic! At the Disco, so that's a good duet that they make there.
Howdy neighbors, Avery from Midwest Gaming here. The best Taylor Swift song by like a pretty big margin is Lover.
If I had to choose my favorite Taylor Swift song, it would definitely have to be Teardrops on My Guitar. Reminds me of a simpler time when I was just playing GameCube as a kid.
My favorite Taylor Swift song would be Blank Space.
I think Taylor Swift's best songs can be broken up into 2 eras. For older Taylor Swift, my favorite song is Fearless. For new Taylor Swift, my favorite song is Don't Blame Me.
Alright, let's see. My favorite Taylor Swift song is gotta be Darude Sandstorm for sure.
My favorite Taylor Swift song has gotta be This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things, in a Reputation album. It's the best song in that album, like hands down. And I literally reference the song like whenever anything bad or unfortunate happens to me.
Alright, so to answer the first question, what is my favorite Taylor Swift song? Well, I don't have one because I don't listen to Taylor Swift, but I'd have to say Blank Space because my wife told me to say that instead.
Hi, I'm Cody Manabe, and my favorite Taylor Swift song is Love Story.
If all of the UDS champions were to be in an all-out death match in the ring, only one man standing, I'm going to have to give it to Cameron Neal. It's not his strength or his form or his cunningness or his quickness. or anything about that that's impressive. It's just, if I lost in the finals to anyone who didn't win this, I would probably off myself.
If all the UDS champions were locked in a room, I think Shu would win because Midwest Gaming best team, baby. You know the vibe.
Out of all the UDS champions that there have been, I think that Andres Torres would win in a fight against the others.
I think that Aaron Furman would probably win in a cage match.
And if all the UDS champions were all locked in a cage and one was a victor, my money would definitely be on Shu. Gotta represent our own. Let's go, Shu!
Okay, for the second question, I think Andre Torres would be the one that wins it.
And then to answer who would win between all the UDS champions, I don't know any of them personally. So I'll just go with whoever is on the team, which in that case is Shunping.
All right. So, for the UDS champion cage match, I'm a little split. So, on the one hand, Cam Neal did win the UDS that I got top 8 in. It's also the one that Avery got second at. So, kind of want to throw my vote to Cam for that. However, Midwest Gaming is the vibe, so I think we're going to pick Shu on this one. And that gives Shu the victory for the cage match. For Taylor Swift, I struggle quite a bit to pick my favorite song. It kind of goes in waves. I have a list. For those of you watching, I have a list of all the best Taylor Swift songs. I've got my top 20, and then I've got my next 5, and then I've got my next 20 after that, and then I've got another 7 or so. So there are 52 songs on this list that I think are all just like top-notch songs. I would rate them all on a grading scale B or better, I think. Yeah, every song on here is at least a B or better. Most of them are A's of some sort, in my opinion. But my favorite right now is Getaway Car on Reputation. So, I didn't listen to Reputation for a long time. I didn't think the album was very good. I didn't like it. So I just kind of refused to listen to anything on it. And I have since seen the light. It's still not my favorite album, but I can finally admit that Reputation is good. And hands down, without a doubt, like by a long shot, it's not even close. No matter what Nick Ortiz says, Getaway Car is the best song on that album. Without a doubt. There is not even a close second. So I've been listening to that a lot lately, and Getaway Car slaps. So if I had to pick one favorite right now, it'd be that. Others in the rotation, depending on the day and what mood I'm in, Cruel Summer from Lover, State of Grace from Red, Fearless from Fearless, and 'Tis the Damn Season from Evermore. The team kind of was all over the board on the Taylor Swift songs. We have Fearless, You Belong With Me, Lover, Blame It On Me, This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things, Teardrops on My Guitar, which is a classic, and Blank Space was the one that had multiple votes from 3 different people. Blank Space takes it for Midwest Gaming as the best Taylor Swift song, which is acceptable, I suppose. I do not have it in my top 20, but it is on the list. It is on the list of 52 songs, so it's an acceptable choice, I suppose. That's all we really have for this week. Nice and short. We had a pretty busy weekend. Some of us played in the remote YCS. Some of us were in Arizona because our good friend and Midwest Gaming sponsor Jose Valdez got married. So shout out to Jose. Had a good weekend. A couple of us got to go down to Arizona for the wedding. So this episode's a little bit short, but we'll be back next week with more content. And we'll see you next week.